Alright guys, welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be talking about how to make this awesome glitch effect inside of Davinci Resolve. And you can do all of this inside of the free version of Davinci Resolve. So let's check out the effect that we are going to be creating. Alright, so that looks pretty cool. We have a bunch of stuff going on there, so definitely stick around as this tutorial is full of great tips to pull off this effect and many others. If you guys are interested in the project files, you can get that by becoming a channel member by clicking the join button to the left of the subscribe button. With all that, let's get started. So I'm inside of Davinci Resolve here, and I just have my timeline. Alright, I'm just going to come up to the effects library and then grab a fusion composition and drag it to the end. And then with my playhead over that, I'm going to go into the fusion page. Inside of the fusion page, we're just going to set up the basics of our composition. So first up, just grabbing a background node and then connecting this up into the media out. So now I have a black background up in my second viewer here. Then I'm going to grab my text. So I'm just grab a text plus node and then merge this up just like that. And then come in here and type glitch. And I'm going to select my font, which is Astrolab. All right. And if you want this, it is available on dafont.com for free. If you do end up getting the project file, you will need to either install this effect or change it out for it to work. Now what we need to do is start working on the displacement for the glitch effect. So we need to use a displacement map. So how we're going to do this is you have two options. So you can either use a fast noise node here, all right, and you can come in, bring the detail up, all right. But what I'm going to be using is the Turbulent Nose node. Now this is a plugin from Learn Now Effects. It is linked down below. It is completely free to install. And what this is it's a type of, it's similar to the fast noise node, but it can give you some different looks. And in my opinion, it renders faster than just a normal fast noise node. So we are going to be using this for the effect. Now let's just set this to be like a turbulent, and then I can bring the size. I can adjust the size here. I will up some contrast, play with the brightness. I think I'll bring some of the detail down a little bit, get some more contrast. Alright, and we'll bring it up to about here. And then the seed rate I'm going to bring down for now, just because that can give you some weird effects later on. And then after this, I'm going to add in the mosaic blur. Alright, and when I view this off to the side, I'll just bring the pixel frequency down a little bit, maybe about right there. Then after the mosaic blur, add in a transform node. Alright, and view this off to the side. Uncheck use size and aspect, and then just drag up the X size, bring down the Y size a little bit, and set the edges to mirror, okay? And now I'll just play around in the settings of my fast noise here again to get the effect that I want. So let's play around with the size, bring that down maybe to get some more detail. And instead of bringing the Y value down on this transform, I can just bring it down inside of the noise node here. So again, we'll just play around with some of the settings here. Once I get something like that, what I'll do is I'll copy all of this and then paste it and then merge these two up. Viewing it off to the side. In this turbulent noise, I can set the seed to be, let's say 6. All right, so it's something different. Then inside of the transform, I'm going to offset it a little bit. So something like that, just so stuff is overlapping. All right, just so it's not quite as boxy. So that is my displacement map so far. And then what we'll do is hook this up to the text so we can actually start to see some of the displacement. So after the text, do shift space and add in a displace node. Then connect the merge into the displace here, and now we can start to see some of the glitch effects. Let's set the type to be X and Y. And now we can adjust the X refraction, and as you can see, we're having this cool glitch effect. So let's come set the X refraction to be 0.3. Alright, so how we're going to animate this on and off is using the brightness inside of the turbulent noise nodes. So at the first frame, we will set the brightness to be 0, okay? And we'll do this for both of them. As you can see, there's still displacement, so we need to come into each of these and bring the brightness down to the point where you can no longer see any information, alright? So bring this down, and there we go. Now we should have no more glitch effects, alright? So we can actually bring it to the point where we just don't see the glitch effects. So we'll do something like that. Then add a keyframe on both of these. So I'll add a keyframe and then come to frame, like let's say 40. And what we'll do then is bring the brightness up a ways, okay? So it will go until it is completely white. So if I view this merge over here, I'll just bring both of these up And now right about there, it's completely white, okay? So now this is the effect that we get. It's coming from over here, and it's going to be shifting off to the side, okay? But that's not really what we want. We want it to start off to the side and then move over into the middle. So I've come into the displacement. Let's go to the end frame. We can set the X offset to be equal to -1. All right, and now as you can see, it'll start from off to the side here and then move into the middle. If we want it to be opposite, we could set this to be 0.4, and now it'll come from the right and then come to the into the middle. Okay, so I'm going to keep it as that. Now we don't really want to see it until the glitch effect starts. So let's take the output of our glitch map into the merge node down here. Now when we play it, as you can see, the glitch starts, all right, then you can start to see it. And we already have a really nice looking glitch effect right here. Let's add another turbulent displace here, so just by copying and pasting that, and then merging this up right here. But in this one, what I want to do is delete the merge, or the mosaic blur, view the turbulent noise, okay? And what I'll do is just come somewhere in the middle here, and I'll play around with the size, because I want these to be really, really small, alright? So bring it down a ways like this, and then play around with the contrast and all that. I want a lot of contrast in this. And then the brightness, I'm going to remove the Turbulent 1 noise brightness, so now there's no more keyframes. So what I'm going to do is just make a bunch of little small streaks, okay? Something like that. There we go. And after this, I'm going to add in a bitmap node. Alright, making sure it's coming into the yellow input. Now if I view that, I can bring the high down, alright? And it just kind of solidifies those a little bit more, makes them so that they're not quite as soft. Alright, back in the turbulent noise, what I want to do is bring up the contrast, bring down the brightness, because I don't want quite as many of them. So somewhere around there looks pretty good. I'll come to frame 40 here, and add a keyframe on the brightness in this one. Then come back to frame 0 and bring the brightness all the way down until you can no longer see them. So it looks like about there is pretty good. And now when I play this, we just have a little bit more detail in there. What I'll do is come to the last frame here, frame 40, and bring the brightness up a bit more. That way, so that right over here we can see the lines a little bit better. I think I should bring the brightness up even more. There we go. So now this is the effect that we have. I think that's looking pretty good so far. Alright, so next up what we're going to do is come into this background node and we will set this to be alpha. Alright, so all the way down to 0. Then I can grab another background node and merge this up here and invert that. So now we still have a black background, but we have a version of the text with the glitch effect that is on a transparent background. Alright, so now we're going to add the coloring to this. So after the merge here, we're going to add in another plugin called Tintensity by Learn Now Effects. Alright, so let's just add this in. And again, this is a free plugin that you can get off of his website that I have linked below. And when we add this in, nothing will really happen. Let's view it off to the side here. Okay, so we'll look at the animation, and nothing changes until we change the color up here. So let's say we make it a red. So now you can see where it's kind of fading away. It'll be like a reddish color, but once it gets to the final part of the animation, it is white. So now we need to play around with the settings here to get everything right. So coming down to the post stuff down here, okay, I'm going to set the post saturation to 2. I'm going to set the post gain to 0.7. Alright, and the post gamma I'll set to around like 0.66, okay? So as you can see, it's very red here right now. Alright, but now what we need to do is come up to the top here and animate the gamma and gain controls. So that it is white at the end, but then gets red as it is animating off here. So let's go to frame 40, and we can set the gain to be, let's just go down to, looks like around like 2.6. And the gamma we can set, let's set around, we can set this around maybe like 1.5, alright? So let's try something like that for now. We still have a little bit of red around the edges, but that's fine. It'll just add to the glow that will be added later on. So let's come to frame 40, add keyframes on both of these, come back a little ways, and then bring these both down a little bit, or just adjust them so it's looks a little bit more red. Alright, so that is the effect that we currently have. We might want to come into the keyframes editor here, and then just shift these over a little bit, just so we have a little bit, like make it a little red for a little bit longer. Alright, let's try that. I think that's looking pretty good. Might bring the gain down a little bit more here. Alright, I think that's looking really good. And now after this, we're going to do shift space and add in a soft glow. All right, let's go to one of the frames that we can actually see this. View it off to the side with the black background. And then play around with the settings, so bring up the glow size a bunch, bring down the gain. And we want to add a good amount of glow size, so let's do something like probably 55, around there. And have the glow, or the gain be right around there. But what we'll do then is animate it off at the end here, so we don't have this glow lasting, okay? So let's come to frame 40, add a keyframe on the glow size. Then come to about, let's say, frame 24, add another keyframe. Then jump to the end and bring the glow size all the way down. But we just need to refine this now quick so that it doesn't look quite as harsh there. So let's drag this out a little bit more maybe. So that's the effect that we have so far. Maybe bring this keyframe in so it's not quite on frame 40. Drag this down a little bit more. There we go. I think that's looking pretty good right about there. So now I would say our glitch effect is completely done. You can add some more displacement nodes if you would like, and then just put some more displacement maps into it just to layer the displacement, and you can get some cool effects by doing that. But now let's start working on the harder part of this, which is going to be the 3D environment. So we want to have a reflection of the text down in the ground, and then have like a texture that is distorting the reflection, okay? So how we're going to set this up is, it might not be the easiest way, but it's the only way that I know how to do. So what we need to do is take an image plane, okay, and we will call this the top, and we will copy this and paste an instance by doing Control-Shift-V, and we'll pin one of these, okay, then click on the other one, and come into the transform on both of them. Now inside of the instance version, we need to right click on the Y, then do D-instance, okay? Then we will right click and then do expression, okay? And then we will link the instance version to the top Y here, all right? But what we need to do is come to the beginning and add a negative. So now it will be the opposite of whatever the top version is, all right? Does that make sense? I will plug this in here and show you. So I'll take the soft glow output and put this into both of the instances, or into both of the image planes, and merge these up into a 3D merge node. Now if we view this, we come into the glitch node and I bring this up. As you can see, they will always be opposite from each other. Inside of the instance, we need to come down to the X and then do D-instance, and then add a 180-degree rotation to it. So now whenever we do this, it is going to be flipped. And there we go, we kind of have a nice looking reflection, or that's what it's going to be, the reflection. And now we need to add in the ground plane here. So let's grab another image plane. Right, and add in the ground plane, and then come up to my media pool and grab this texture here that I have. All right, if you guys want this texture, it is linked below. It comes from the person that inspired this tutorial. He made a similar tutorial for After Effects, really good tutorial, and this texture came from him. So link down below to where you can get that. And then I'll take my ground plane, put it into my ground plane, and then put this into my merge node. And inside the ground plane then, I will take the X and flip it. Let's do -90. Alright, so this is what we have now. And what I need to do is create 3 different instances of our render. I need to make one that only has a glitch text, one that only has our image plane, and one that only has a reflection. But all of them need to be at the same angle. So what I'll do is delete this merge here. I'll then grab 3 render nodes. Okay, so I can name these. So render 3 is going to be ground plane. Render 2 is going to be the reflection. And render 1 is going to be the main text render. And now what I can do is grab a merge node for each of these, just like so. Connect all of these up and then connect them into their appropriate render node. So it should look something like this. And if we look in each of these renders, as you can see, we can see the different elements. You can't see the ground plane because it's at 90-degree rotation, so it's invisible to where the camera is. All right, but then we need to add a camera node, and we'll pipe this camera node into each one of these merge nodes so that all of them have the same camera. In the transform, I'm gonna check use target, and then what I'll do is zoom this out and adjust the target so it's pointing to the middle of the text. And then I can pull it up, and now we can see the ground plane here. Let me view the main text render. And I'll pull this out, move this off to the side, and position it something like that. So now in each of the renders, they all have the same camera. Now we need to start working on combining this all together so that we get the appropriate look. What we should do is take our main text render and put this into the media out. we'll grab the background node from over here and then merge this up over here as well. Control T to switch. And there we go. We now have it on a black background. Next up, let's add the reflection render. Okay, let's just merge it up like so. And now we need to do a bunch of displacement effects using the ground plane texture here. So after this render, I'm going to do shift space and add in the very blur node. All right, and now as you can see, we have this kind of blur effect going on. And what we need to do is take our render from the ground plane and put this into the blur image of the variable. Okay, now that we have that, I'm going to bring up the blur size. And now as you can see, we can start to see the texture from this render here appearing. All right, so it's only blurring in some spots. In here, we can bring the quality up a little bit, all right, or down depending on the effect that you want. But that's looking pretty good so far. Blur channel can be luminance. And now what we need to do is start messing around with this ground plane so that the displacement is what we want it to be. So first up, I'm just going to scale this up a bunch, okay? So we'll do something around there. Inside of this merge, what I'm going to do is put a rectangle into it with a soft edge. So bring it up here, bring it off, and then add a little bit of a soft edge to it, just in case it comes in the camera later on, and we don't want a harsh fall off. Then after this media in, I'm going to add in a color corrector node. And inside of this, what I'm going to do is add a bunch of contrast. Let's view it off to the side here. Contrast, I can play around with the gain settings. And as you can see, everything that we do here is affecting how it looks down on the floor. So bring the lift down a little bit, and then just play around with all of these settings until you get a certain reflection that you like. I like more of it to be blurred, so I'll bring the contrast down a little bit. I still want a few spots so that I can kind of see the texture. Alright, so next I'm going to merge up the ground plane and put it in between here, and then we can just have it as just a soft texture so it extends past here. So I'm just going to shift this stuff over, and I'm going to merge it up right here. So the only issue now is that this is covering our initial render. So how to fix this is if we come into both of these renders and check the Z channel for the output, then come into this merge node and then come to the channels and do enable depth merge. And now as you can see, it's kind of hard to see, but we can see the text appearing on top of it here. I'll come into the merge node and then just bring the blend down a little bit here. Something very, very light, okay? So it's practically invisible, but you just have that little bit of a texture extending out, just like so. So now we can start testing this out just by moving the camera around and making sure all of the displacement is working correctly. And to me, it looks like it's working great. Another effect that we can add is right down here. After this background, I'll merge another one up. And then set this to be a very kind of dark bluish. So let's say around there. Then I'll add a polygon mask. And then add a mask that looks something like this. There we go. And then just add a big soft edge. Set this to like 0.5. And then play around with the controls here. And we can now just get this like blue haze that's kind of extending on to our glitch here. And this is again where we want to bring this plane down a little bit. There we go. And after this render, I'm going to add in another color corrector. Place it right here. And if I view this off to the side, I'm just going to give this whole thing kind of a bluish tint. There we go. So whenever you can see it, it'll just be a little bit blue. I'm going to extend this polygon here, just make it a little bit brighter. There we go. We have something like that now. The next step will be to come into your camera and get an animation. So what I'll do is I'll just pan down a little bit here. Add some keyframes on the translation, then come to the end. And then I can move this off to the side here. Move it in. Off to the side again. And there we go. Now we have a nice pan. It just kind of follows the text here. Once you come back to the edit page, you just have to wait for this red line here to turn blue. And then your composition is ready for smooth playback right on the edit page. Alright, so now that this is finished rendering, you can now see the glitch effect and all the reflections are working perfectly. I would say this one didn't turn out quite as good as my first ones here. I just need to put a little more time into refining the reflection texture and all of that. But I will have both of the different versions available for project files by becoming a channel member. Another cool effect that you can just add is coming up into the open effects here and searching shake. Then adding a camera shake to it. Alright. And then coming into the effects, bringing the speed and the motion scale down. Maybe up a little bit more. There we go, and now I just have this little bit of camera shake, and I think that looks really good. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed watching this tutorial. I hope that you guys learned something new in this process, and I hope that you guys will subscribe so that you never miss out on a brand new tutorial just like this. Let me know what you think down in the comments below, but I'll see you guys next time for another video.